This presentation is all about the Swing package for Java code and how to make real interfaces for your programs. The Swing package is used to create the graphical user interfaces of the type that you see here. Things with menus, images, drop-down lists, buttons, and the windows that all of those things live on top of. The Swing package is used by the import statement that you see at the bottom of this list, importing javax.swing. And by importing that, we get to get all of the pre-built code at our disposal for handling user events and formatting and display and layout. This is a massive assistance to us as programmers. When we look at user interfaces, there are 3 bits of vocabulary that I want us to start out with, listed here as frame, panel, and controls. So what do I mean by the frame? The frame is what you see indicated here, the outer window that everything lives on top of. The panel is going to be everything in the middle. This is kind of the body of the application. Now, it's not the components themselves, but it is the background that all of that is going to live on top of. And finally, the individual controls are going to be things like buttons, labels, text boxes, images, sliders, things like that. So frames. There are 3 types of frames that we interact with in the Swing package. The standard one, the JFrame, is the standard window that we use in desktop applications. This has the minimize button, the maximize button, the close or exit button. The second type is the JApplet. This is a little different because it's meant to be run inside a web browser like Safari or Internet Explorer. And the final type of frame is a JDialog box. This is generally a pop-up window with information or information for the user or asking a question. In this panel, you can see several different types of JPanels. Now we can have them tabbed, we can have them split, we can have scrollable panels. But the idea here is that this is the background that other things are going to live on top of. It's important to get this down because, as you'll see soon, we often create these in a separate class from the rest of our GUI. And finally, the individual controls. JButtons, JSliders, JCombo boxes. There are dozens of these different types of controls, and there's a lot of things to be able to work with. You'll find, however, that most of the time, you'll mostly just need a few of the subset that's available. More often than not, when we write our code, we're going to start by creating a custom class that extends JPanel. As you know from inheritance, if you extend a class, you get all of the functionality and the methods of that class, but you can customize it. You can make it your own. In our case, we'll create a panel and add buttons and other components to it. And then in a separate class, create a runner, something with a main method, that sets up a JFrame and adds our custom panel to it, and then tells the program to run. So let's take a look at that in code. In this example, the only thing that exists on the panel is simply a button that says "Click me." In the constructor for this panel, it instantiates the button, gives it some text, and adds it to itself. In the main runner for this program, we first are creating a J-frame that our program will live on top of. The frame.setDefaultClose operation method simply tells your program, when you're closed, the application is done. You can exit. And then, as we see, it's instantiating a new myPanel, which extends JPanel, and adding that to the frame. This adds the button as well, because that was part of myPanel. It sets the size, and very importantly, it sets the visible property of this frame to true. For more information, you can Google Visual Guide to Swing. You'll notice that the images here are where I pulled some of the images for our components that we were looking at earlier. This is part of the Java Trails, and this visual guide will help you get familiar with some of the terminology over the components that we use when talking about Swing objects. I encourage you to we're finished with this video, and I encourage you to go check out that website as the next place to start.